In this video, I'll be discussing yarn weight and why it's important to choose the appropriate hook when you are working with a certain yarn. So over here I have two examples of amigurumi crochet. Both of them were made with the same pattern. So the small one, I used a size 2 fine yarn, and over here I used a size 6 super bulky yarn. Both of these use the same pattern. The main difference is that I used different weights of yarn. So when I'm talking about yarn weight, I'm talking about the thickness of the yarn. When you want to find this information on your yarn, you look at your label. So over here, when you're on your label, you're looking for this information right here in this symbol. So that's how I know that this is a size 2 fine yarn. I really like using size 2 fine yarn, specifically ones that are 100% cotton, because I find that they're less likely to pill. What I mean by that is that if it's pilling, when there's friction and you're rubbing against it, it starts to create these little fuzzy bits, and sometimes they can fly off or have like little bumps in your yarn, which I don't like in my pieces. I like them to be smooth. So highly recommend that you use 100% cotton yarn. And I have the preference of fine. All right, so I'm going to be showing you different swatches of this yarn and what it looks like using the exact same stitches. So over here, in this first example, I made a magic ring, put 6 single crochets in it, and then I did a row of 6 increases. So when you're working on a piece, you want to make sure that there aren't any apparent holes that you're not intentionally putting in there, because when you have amigurumi, you're most likely going to be stuffing that piece, and then you don't want to be able to see the stuffing or have the stuffing fall out of your crochet doll. All right, so over here, you don't see any holes that you don't want. Additionally, you don't want it to be too tight. By too tight, I mean that it's hard to put your hook into the next stitch. So over here, if I continue working, it's easy for me to slide the hook in there and then continue on in this round. If you have to exert a lot of force in order to get your hook into the piece, that definitely is telling you that the tension is wrong, because if you continue doing that, your piece will end up tight and incredibly stiff. Additionally, you'll end up hurting your hands and your wrist a lot. So make sure that you are choosing the correct size hook and yarn. Over here for fine yarn, it's recommended that you use a hook that is somewhere between 3.5 and 4.5 milliliters or millimeters. That's why I have this 3.75 millimeter hook for this. All right. And then I wanted to show what happens when you mismatch your hook and your yarn. So over here, I have another fine weight yarn, so it's the exact same weight as the previous one. However, I used a hook that is way too large. So I wanted to overemphasize what happens when you use a mismatched hook and yarn. So again, both of these are the exact same weight and actually the same company of yarn, same stitches, but this one ended up working up a lot more loosely and with holes. So over here, you want to avoid this, because if you are stuffing your piece, you're going to be able to see the stuffing popping through all of those holes through there. All right, so using textured yarns, big yarns like this, you want a bigger hook. So over here for this super bulky yarn, I am using a size M hook. Again, I have the same exact amount of stitches as previously. I have my magic circle with 6 single crochets and then 6 increases in the second round. And again, I can tell this is appropriately matched because I can easily put my hook into the next stitch, continue working. I didn't have to overly exert and feel like I'm stabbing into the yarn. Additionally, I don't see any big gaping holes that would prevent my amigurumi from looking nice and neat. So to compare, here's my super bulky yarn. Here's my fine yarn with the mismatching of hook size. The hook was way too large. And finally, my fine yarn with the correct hook size.